We've got to talk about D.Va. I think D.Va is definitely the de facto best tank in the game right now. Not even really close. And she has become part of a bit of a problem. Now, there's going to be a lot. I'm going to talk about a lot of the micro buffs and stuff that she's gotten, why she is here, what is D.Va's deal, right? How is she so good? She's generally been seen as okay to maybe not very strong over the course of Overwatch 2, maybe a couple maps here and there. But why is she just now just kind of like popped into the meta so aggressively? So let's talk about her uptime, survivability, and DPS, because they are all very, 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 very good, okay? It's kind of, all three of those have created this just vicious character that is unkillable, but also can kill you very fast. So we'll talk about that, right? So how do we get here? I went back through and I looked at the patch notes from the recent year, and I think that there were three big patches that really have put D.Va into this state. So first off, of course, in May, when we got the armor reworks and the tank role passives and stuff like that, of course the tanks are just going to feel better when they all become better, right? And I think D.Va here has really benefited from those tank changes because of two things, right? One, take a look at her health bar. Now, this is open health, or open queue health, so it's a bit of a different story, but take a look at her health bar. Do you see as much armor as I'm seeing? Yes, D.Va has a lot of armor, and so buffing armor, and we'll get to the July patch in a second, but making armor better, making her more effective against those tank busters, just harder to hit or to damage in the first place, D.Va is going to get better, right? I mean, she is just majority armor. Why is that? Well, it's because she very often will be getting hit from all angles, other than directly in front of her. It's very hard to minimize the damage that she takes. So the armor has helped her get through that, right? It's not a perfect tool, right? There's always ways to get around armor, but it's been a good way for her to get more aggressive without just instantly blowing up, right? So that's why D.Va has a lot of armor, right? We also need to talk about the what's it called? The headshot damage, right? So knockback reduction, of course, D.Va is going to benefit from it, but honestly, does she benefit from it that much? Not really. Boosters are very long, and if you use your boosters and you get knocked back, there's a chance that you can still continue to use your boosters and get back up to whatever high ground you were going for. Don't worry about that, right? I don't think that is too much of a big deal. What's really the big deal is the headshot reduction, because another one of D.Va's big weaknesses is that when you have defense matrix up, right, nobody can shoot you, right? No one can headshot you. All the projectiles are eaten. They cannot headshot you, which is going to be a lot of big damage, right? However, now that she has her when her defense matrix goes down, there's less risk. There's actually less risk for having your defense matrix down. So it's actually, I would argue, less skillful, because it's not as bad if you mismanage your DM, because the punishment is not nearly as rough, especially combine those headshot changes with the armor changes. D.Va is probably not going to be taking as much damage, nearly as much as she used to. That is really a big thing here. Now, again, just in May, D.Va was not necessarily like the tank, right? All the way back then, I think D.Va still had a couple of problems. Like, why would you play D.Va over Winston? D.Va had trouble with tanks, stuff like that. So then they were like, okay, we don't want D.Va to be a tank buster. We don't want tank busters, right? So let's start making D.Va better against squishies, right? And I think that was probably a pretty good way to keep her relevant, right? So her weapon spread was reduced, so it's much more accurate, aka you're going to be getting more damage overall from further ranges. And even if you are just like super up close and personal, again, it's more consistent damage. Always good. It helps your DPS pressure without actually increasing the numbers, which I think is a very good compromise. It's a good solution, right? And then the booster damage, this was a compensation buff for when it used to do 15, now it does 25. Basically, when the health changes went up, D.Va's booster damage didn't, and that is like a non-aim skill type of damage source, so they wanted to boost it up, and it did get a little better technically. But again, that also just more matters for squishies, right? It's more health you're taking out of the squishy health pool when you go in and dive them and do all of that stuff. I don't think these are the changes that really made D.Va so good, but it is definitely something to consider here, right? Especially against not only just squishies, but also some of these smaller tanks in the roster. Take Zarya or Junker Queen or something like that. It also makes her much more effective against those. And also, I think what we don't... the weapon spread also allows D.Va to bully on high grounds without having to get off of them. So I'll show you an example here, right? So D.Va always she likes playing high ground. She likes doing this with her weapon spread. You know, she's not very effective at, let's say, long range, right? So I'm not doing that much. But with this new spread, you know, this bot's kind of far. Oh, I fell down. But you know, that bot is kind of far. This one here, that's still decent damage. I mean, I barely shot at them at all, right? And so I can just bully this high ground spot and be doing decent damage, and then, like, you know, watch in and look for the perch, right? In a much safer position. So not only is D.Va taking less damage from armor and headshot reduction, she's taking less damage because she doesn't actually have to get as close to, you know, as put herself in as much danger as normal to be as effective, right? So even though D.Va is a close-range dive character, she's always done decently well in these slower, kind of pokier styles. You know, think of like a BAP and a Kiri on Rialto or something like that. And now she's even better at it, okay? So that is one thing to consider. Now we get to July, right? And July is where I think D.Va really... these are the changes that you all know about, right? Let's talk about armor first. Armor just got objectively better. And again, D.Va has a million of it, okay? So D.Va is just taking so much less damage overall. She is so much more survivable. And that is just, it is hard to kill this character. It's hard to chunk through her armor. So she's going to be able to get more aggressive. And now that she can get more aggressive with that armor, that DPS upgrade from the fusion cannons is better, right? It's just going to be more consistent. Match that with her recent micro missiles buff in that same patch, where her damage went from 4 to 5.5. That is insane. Look how much damage that just the micro missiles does. I'm not even shooting at all, right? That is how much damage it does. Match that with a booster. Match that with a melee. Match that with the fact that she can shoot during it, right?
Your carry is here.
D.Va now just has insane damage burst potential with this. And with those armor changes and with all those other changes we talked about, she can just get in super aggressive and fly right away and really be at no risk to herself, and then she'll be on that high ground perch and just start shooting you again, right? That's kind of it. All of this without even mentioning the defense matrix changes. Now, the defense matrix changes, these are the best. This is why D.Va has gotten so good.
Initiating defense matrix.
Defense matrix is now 0.5 times longer, right? But the resource comes back at the same rate. So D.Va has defense matrix, which is the ability that completely denies projectiles. She's gonna have it much more often. By a lot, right? Now remember, that means D.Va can sit here for 3.5 seconds, not take any damage. Even when her defense matrix goes down, they start shooting my face. Tank armor changes. Headshot reduction, right? There's no risk here anymore. There is barely any risk. D.Va just does not take damage like she used to. She is able to get away from it, basically. Just the pitiful amounts of damage that she takes, and the amount of aggression that she has, and the amount of DPS pressure that she has. You know, combine that with the fact that, you know, D.Va is, you know, pretty mobile, pretty versatile tank, right? Because she can fly around and go DM other people. She can DM enemies. She can DM her team. She can DM herself. She has a lot of room to play around with. Eliminating those weaknesses that would have prevented her from doing so in situations like that allows her to play in a lot more types of scenarios. You can now get away with D.Va on maps that I don't think you could have gotten away with her before, right? You can get away with her on a lot more brawl maps, you know, flatter maps like that, where she doesn't even need to abuse high grounds as much because she has just such good bulk and close pressure that she can kind of play. You know how Winston will play with like a Kiriko Lucio, that kind of like divey brawl style. D.Va slots into that role much better than I think she should with the resources that she has, right? She doesn't have Bubble, which is that really good tool, and the cleave like Winston does, although she kind of does if we're really thinking about it. So that really is why D.Va. And also there was like some self-destruct change in the February patch that I didn't include because that really doesn't matter, but that's why D.Va is here, right? That's why we have our D.Va Overlord. So why is it a problem, right? D.Va hasn't been good very much. I think D.Va, especially in Overwatch 1, people like D.Va. I love D.Va, okay? I'll be the first to admit it. D.Va is one of those tanks that I fall back to on certain maps because I just feel more comfortable on D.Va. I feel like I can do a lot more on this character than like maybe like the best pick like a Winston. Think of like Dorado. I love playing D.Va on Dorado, even though I think for the most of Overwatch 2, the better pick is Winston. I just felt more comfortable on D.Va, so I played D.Va, right? I love D.Va. But she is just so uninteractive. I think it is the culmination of all these tank changes. We're seeing it the worst with D.Va right now. She is just, you try to shoot her, she doesn't take damage because of the armor and the headshot reduction. You try to shoot somebody else, she is able to eat all the damage with her defense matrix, right? There's just nothing you can do to this character. You try and wait out the defense matrix, it comes back much more often. She's going to have it much more often. It comes back faster for longer periods of time. So you can't do as much, right? It is just so overbearing. And again, D.Va is versatile and mobile, so she can go here and there and do everything. And that is what's fun about D.Va, and you can't change that. If you made D.Va not be able to get around as often, people are not going to like playing this character. She's going to go back to being super boring. So it's a tough situation, right? D.Va is just, it's so uninteractive to play this character. And even worse, if you go into a D.Va mirror, I mean, oh my god, it is so mind-numbing to have two D.Vas close to each other. I'm trying to shoot her backline, she's DMing it. Okay, now she's out of DM, she's going to try and shoot my backline, I have to DM it. By the time my DM is done, her DM is back, so on and so forth, right? Or you just sit there and you DM each other because you know whenever somebody like puts it away, there's a bit of like, you know, it goes on cooldown for a second, so you can get some guaranteed damage in there. So if you both start shooting each other, you have to just hold your DMs until they go out, and then you can move about the cabin, basically. It is a really frustrating experience to play against D.Va. And God forbid, you know, that's just D.Va v D.Va. I mean, if you try and pick, like, let's look at a character here, you know. Mauga's completely shut down by D.Va. There's nothing he can do. She can DM his entire cardiac, and that is it, right? Mauga is just completely shut down. Now, that's a character that we really likes, but whatever. Queen. Most of Queen's damage just gets completely shut down by D.Va. Doesn't matter. Tank knockback reduction doesn't matter. She's a shotgun. She cannot chunk down D.Va whatsoever. Terrible. Horrible. Not good for her. Doomfist. Doomfist damage is neutered when he can't use his knuckles. He is not nearly as survivable as D.Va. He has no armor. So she can just chunk him down super hard, keep him away. If he tries to do anything, there is no world where Doomfist is going to be able to kill anything while a D.Va is even like looking. You know, there's a couple characters in here that's just like, oh, you know, like Ball. If D.Va is watching properly, nobody's going to be able to follow up off of a Ball dive, anything like that. Winston, I think, is okay. Like, he can chunk through her armor because he has true damage on it. But, like, D.Va isn't as good against Winston as, you know, she used to be pre-Season 9. But why would I play Winston when he is much harder to play? There's a lot more things going on, you know, a lot of things I have to consider when I just play D.Va, who can kind of do his job better. Higher damage, higher survivability. Other characters like, oh, I'm just going to try and bypass the D.Va, right? Like, let's just try. If she's playing in the backline, let me play Hog. I'm going to try and pull them away. D.Va is super good against Hog, right? D.Va is decent against Sigma. She can bully the high grounds a lot. Like, she doesn't have a lot of, like, super bad matchups against tank, and that's why it can feel really frustrating. You know, people always bring up Zarya. I disagree, right? There's some maps where Zarya is definitely going to be better just because of how the map is laid out, but D.Va can just stay on a high ground, stay super survivable. Who cares if the beam is going through her defense matrix? She's going to be more effective at shooting her and killing her because of her weapon spread, right? And just stay at a decent range from her. And because she has so much survivability, she can ignore her. She can force bubbles on the back line and just dash out and live. And since D.Va's uptime with boosters and defense matrix is way higher than Zarya's bubble recharge rate, it's going to be much easier to abuse the bubble. Like, it's a very winnable matchup. And I don't think it is as hard as it really seems. If you're not as proficient on D.Va, it may seem like Zarya is getting a million charge. But there's a lot of ways that you can work around Zarya on D.Va. I think it is really not that bad of a matchup for her, right? And I talked about it, right? D.Va's biggest weaknesses about poor DM usage, poor booster usage, bad positioning, right, are just kind of irrelevant with those armor and those headshot changes, right? Also, D.Va used to have to pick and choose, right? It was hard for her to be at all places at once. That's why she wasn't very good, because she had to be in the front line, be aggressive, but also she had to peel for her back line, and she had to do all this stuff. She was ping-ponging all over the place. She was spread super thin. With the defense matrix changes and the longer range that she can play at, it's really not the case anymore. Right? It really isn't. She doesn't have those limited resources so much. She has much more to work with, and that makes her so overbearing, right? It feels like the counterplay to D.Va is much harder. It feels like you're much more forgiven for misplaying on D.Va, and I think that is just something that I really don't mess with, right? I think D.Va is really fun and interesting because you are in the 5v5 format. You are kind of limited, right? That was kind of the appeal of her for me, right? It's just that you are limited. You have these really good tools, but they aren't up as often as you want them to. They don't work for everything, and you are very susceptible, right? Now that you aren't susceptible, you can focus those resources that had to go into aggressive DMing into defensive DMing, and then use your aggression for yourself. So you don't have the, like, should I or shouldn't I dynamic anymore. It's always, I can do both, so let's just do everything, right? There's no decision making. That's really what I'm trying to get at here. And this is coming from a D.Va player. Like, yes, she's good right now, and yes, I will play her because I'm decently good at D.Va. I feel like she's one of my better tanks. But I don't think this is right. Like, I don't think that this is how D.Va should function. I really don't want this. So basically, what's the point, right? What do I want to change? I think the easiest thing is that you could keep everything that they've given her, because, you know, barking up the wrong tree talking about the tank passive changes, that is a whole different conversation. Not even gonna touch that, right? Just bring her defense matrix back. That is the easiest thing you can do. She keeps all of her other quality of life buffs. She just can't do everything, right? Now, we also have to talk about armor. There is something we can do about armor without changing the system mechanics. Just give her less of it. I mean, like, just for real. Just give her a little less armor. That is it, right? It will make her survivability much lower. It'll bring back those dynamics while still keeping it. I think the armor changes were too much, and I think armor is just way too good and just unfun to play against right now. I would much rather them bring it back to that reduction of 5 instead of 10, and then have a flat reduction past that instead of it being like, or I say a flat percentage reduction rather than like a flat one number. That is what I think, at least, so that all characters, like tank busters have a problem with it, but, you know, all characters have an equal problem with armor. That's how armor used to function, just to 30% in Overwatch 2. They added the tank busting element of it, but then made it better against burst, and now they're trying to keep that dynamic, and they've just made it better overall. I don't think that was the right way to do it. If they're not going to change armor, just take away some of her armor. That's it. That's it. That's all you need. You can keep her total health pool the same, take away some of that armor. I really do think it would do wonders. Defense matrix with the armor, it will kill her survivability. It will bring those dynamics back. That's really, I think, all you need to do, right? It reintroduces those weaknesses. It reintroduces the playmaking potential, right? All of that good stuff, right? She should not be super effective in denial and defense, right? And to me, D.Va should be encouraged to be active with her DM and try and get in their face and DM things, which is riskier overall. But, D.Va shouldn't be encouraged to just play super survivable and play in the backline and be defensive, because that's not how Overwatch 2 works, and that just frankly isn't as fun. You want to be able to get in there, deny something, get out, do a lot of damage, maybe get a kill, but get out, right? That is also the crucial thing. It's more of like I'm in, I'm out. I'm weaving in and out of the what's it called? Of where I am, right? Of engagements. I'm whack-a-moling. Maybe her boosters cooldown can be shorter. I'm not opposed to that so long as she gets lots of survivability nerfs to compensate, right? Maybe you can even bring her damage down if that's the case, just to allow D.Va to do more things, but still have to manage her DM properly, right? That's cool too. I'm totally fine with that. Also, the idea that has been kind of bounced around, I think especially because Emong put it in the creator patch, is that if D.Va got some sort of power up by eating enough damage, I think that would be cool. I think encouraging characters, I call this concept indirect survivability, where you shoot a character and there is a risk to it, right? So think about Zarya. If you shoot Zarya and you accidentally shoot a bubble, she powers up. There's risk there. So she doesn't have to have the highest health pool, because there's always a possibility that Zarya pops a bubble and I don't want to shoot her anymore. But that gives her survivability. It gives her 2.5 seconds or however long bubble is to just kind of have free reign, right? To take the space or whatever. I think that is a concept that they should explore more in many different ways with lots of their tanks, so that they don't become these giant damage sponges. They become something that's much more interactable. Something like this for D.Va, to where, good, aggressive defense matrix usage is encouraged by some sort of like risky mechanic like that, where maybe she gets some damage, maybe I don't know, maybe she gets more ult charge, anything. I don't really have any specific thoughts, but just any kind of like buff. Maybe it resets her boosters cooldowns. So instead of making her something like that, if she reaches a damage threshold, it resets her boosters cooldown so that she can like, okay, I whack-a-mole this, I'm gonna go whack-a-mole the next thing, right? So she can kind of fly all over the map and still be that protector. Or really more of like, she can be aggressive, eat the damage, fall back for defense. Maybe she defends first and then goes in on the aggression while they've used their resources. That would be really cool. I'm gonna go ahead. I'll lock that in. That's the change I want, at least right now. I think that would be really, really cool. But yeah, that's D.Va. Again, I want to say I love D.Va. I think she's really fun. I like her kit. It just doesn't quite fit in with Overwatch 2 as of right now. And as tanks start becoming what they are, D.Va is a really weird. She's either super good because her abilities are super good and super unfun, or just like, she's okay, but do I want to fight a D.Va all the time? Not necessarily. I want there to be more interaction with D.Va, right? That's kind of what I want. I want there to be more interaction with all the tanks, but, D.Va is the hot topic right now, so let's talk about D.Va, right? That's what I want. So, yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching. That's going to be it for me today. If you have any hot takes or character reworks ideas, anything like that, join my Discord. It's down below. Also, don't forget to give me a comment. What do you think about D.Va? Do you think she's overblown? Do you think there's other better tanks? Let me know what you think. Feel free to like and subscribe while you're at it. I do really appreciate it. And also, this was streamed live at Twitch. Twitch.tv/Lane Hemingway. That's going to be Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays is when I'm live. I like to do discussions, talk to you guys, get your feedback about all of this stuff. But thank you guys so much for watching. Have a good day.